Imagine this. You get a message, a long paragraph, charged with emotion. Your heart rate rises, your chest tightens, and instantly, you feel that old familiar pull. I have to answer. I have to explain. I have to fix this. What if you didn't? What if, instead of rushing to explain yourself, you chose silence? What if, instead of proving your point, you simply withdrew your energy and walked away internally? Today, I want to talk to you about something deeply uncomfortable and incredibly powerful: the decision to become selectively emotionally unavailable, the decision to reclaim your energy, and to stop letting the world drain you on demand. This is not about coldness. It's not about playing games. It's about sovereignty. It's about self-respect. It's about finally choosing yourself. Let's start with a hard question. Why do you feel guilty when you don't respond right away? Why does it feel almost wrong to leave a message unread, to take space after someone is angry with you, or to refuse to explain yourself endlessly? From a very young age, most of us were conditioned to believe that our worth is tied to our availability. Be a good child. Answer when you're called. Don't be rude. Don't ignore people. Don't upset anyone. So we grow up associating being responsive, being emotionally available, being on call, with being a good person. And here's the trap. That childhood conditioning doesn't disappear. Quietly becomes your default setting. Now you're an adult, and every time someone sends an emotional message, every time someone is disappointed, every time someone hints at guilt, you feel that old reflex kick in. I owe them a response. I owe them my energy. But you don't. You have been programmed to feel responsible for other people's emotional states, and that programming is draining your life force. Carl Jung psychology offers a powerful idea. The psyche is an energy system. Just like your body has physical energy, your mind and emotions run on a kind of inner fuel. Let's call it psychic energy. Every time you react, you spend it. You see a provocative text and you react. Someone sends you a guilt-soaked message and you defend yourself. Someone dumps their chaos on you and you absorb it, soothe it, carry it. Over time, this constant reaction becomes automatic. You don't even choose anymore. You just obey your impulses. But here's the problem. Your psychic energy is finite. It is not endless. You do not have an infinite supply of patience, attention, empathy, and emotional bandwidth. If you are always explaining, always defending, always fixing, always comforting, always adjusting, then you are bleeding out your psychic energy without even realizing it. Think about how often you feel drained after a conversation, exhausted after an argument that went nowhere, numb after being everyone's emotional support system. That's not random. That is your energy system being constantly tapped. Silence is one of the most powerful ways to conserve that energy. Not silence as punishment, not manipulative silent treatment, but conscious, deliberate, grounded silence. The kind of silence that says, I see what's happening, and I choose not to spend my energy here. You didn't find this channel. This channel found you. If this content resonates with you, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and help this message reach more people. Thank you for your support. Carl Jung psychology also talks about the persona, the mask we wear in society. It's the version of you show the world to be accepted, the helpful one, the kind one, the always available one, the one who never says no. On the surface, this looks nice, but there's a hidden cost. When you live through this mask, you start abandoning yourself. To maintain that image, you say yes. When your whole body is screaming no, you respond to messages you don't have the energy for. You stay in conversations that feel toxic in your nervous system. You explain yourself to people who aren't listening and don't actually care about understanding you. You become emotionally available, not because you want to be, but because you're afraid not to be, afraid of being seen as selfish, afraid of being seen as cold, afraid of being rejected. This is self-abandonment in disguise. You're not choosing kindness. You're choosing survival. You're trading your inner peace for outer approval, again and again and again. Now let's talk about projection. In Carl Jung's psychology, projection is what happens when someone takes their own unresolved issues, their guilt, shame, insecurity, fear, and unconsciously throws them onto someone else. When you are constantly emotionally available, you become the perfect screen for other people's projections. You become the therapist, the savior, the villain, the caretaker, the emotional punching bag, depending on what they need you to be. In that moment, they may not be doing this consciously, but the pattern is very real. The more accessible you are, the more you become their emergency emotional hotline, their validation source, their guilt receptacle. Listen to some of the subtle phrases that often show up here. You never respond to me like you used to. I guess you don't care anymore. I just thought you were different. Wow. I didn't expect this from you. What's really being said is, you're not giving me unlimited access to your energy anymore, and I don't like that. If you have a history of people pleasing, those lines hook you instantly. You rush back in. You over-explain. You apologize for setting even the smallest boundary. And every time you do that, you reinforce the message. My energy belongs to whoever demands it the loudest. Now, what if we flipped the script? What if emotional unavailability was not a flaw, but a skill? What if being selectively unavailable was actually a sign of maturity, self-respect, and sovereignty? Conscious unavailability means you do not respond to every emotional trigger. You do not pick up every invitation to drama. You do not explain yourself endlessly. You do not make yourself a 24/7 emotional service. Instead, you choose when and how you engage. You decide. This conversation deserves my energy. This right now does not. You give yourself permission to say, I'm not available for this discussion right now. I need time to process before I respond. I'm not willing to talk in this tone. Or simply, you say nothing. Conscious silence is not about winning. It's not about punishing the other person. It's about stepping out of the reflexive pattern, where they push a button, and you instantly react. It breaks the predictability, and that is where your power returns. Now let's be honest about the cost. Setting boundaries and becoming more emotionally selective is not glamorous. It is often painful, lonely, and deeply uncomfortable. When you stop being permanently available, some people will not like it. Some will guilt-trip you. Some will say you've changed. Some will distance themselves because you no longer play the role they assign to you. You may lose relationships. You may be misunderstood. You may feel waves of doubt. Am I being too harsh? Am I the problem? Did I go too far? But here is the uncomfortable truth. If a relationship only works when you abandon yourself, it was never a healthy relationship. To begin with, your boundaries will reveal who was actually connected to you and who was only connected to their access to you. The discomfort you feel when you start protecting your energy is not proof that you're doing something wrong. It is often proof that you're finally breaking free from emotional enmeshment. It is the withdrawal symptom of a life spent overgiving. Now, let's return to silence. We often think silence means nothing is happening, but silence can be incredibly loud. Silence can say, I refuse to participate in this argument. I will not defend myself against distorted stories. I will not spend my energy trying to change your mind. I choose peace over proving a point. Space to observe, space to breathe, space to see the pattern. Instead of getting swept into the emotional storm, you become the watcher. You might notice, every time this person feels insecure, they provoke me. Every time I set a boundary, they guilt-trip me. Every time I pull back, they escalate to pull me in again. Silence allows you to see who people really are when they no longer have easy access to your energy. A calm, grounded, silent presence often commands more respect than 1,000 arguments. You don't have to scream. You don't have to convince. You don't have to defend. You simply stand in yourself, and over time, people feel it. This brings us to individuation. In Carl Jung's psychology, this word describes the process of becoming whole, authentic, and truly yourself, not the self your parents wanted, not the self your culture approves of, not the self everyone expects you to be, the self that is actually you. Individuation requires solitude, not necessarily constant physical isolation, but a psychological stepping back from the noise of the collective. It's the moment when you stop letting the crowd define what is right for you. You retreat a little, you go inward, you listen, you question, you ask, what do I truly feel? What do I actually want? Who am I when I'm not performing for approval? To hear those answers, you need distance from the constant emotional demands of others. You need silence and space, and often a season of loneliness. That loneliness is not a sign that you are failing. It is often a sign that you are leaving behind people, roles, and identities that were never truly aligned with you. You are in a sacred in-between. You are no longer who you were, but not yet fully who you're becoming. And in that space, through silence and withdrawal, you begin to reconnect with your essence. You didn't find this channel. This channel found you. If this content resonates with you, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and help this message reach more people. Thank you for your support. So how do you actually live this? In practical terms, let's talk about that. First, delay your responses. You do not have to reply immediately. When you receive a triggering message, put your phone down, take a breath, walk away from the screen, let the first wave of emotion pass. Then ask yourself, do I want to respond to this? Do I need to respond to this? And if yes, how much of my energy does it deserve? Sometimes the answer will be a short, calm reply. Sometimes the answer will be no reply at all. Second, use simple boundary phrases. You don't owe anyone an essay to justify your limits. You can say, I'm not available to discuss this right now. I need some space to think. I'm not willing to continue this conversation in this tone. I'm focusing on other things at the moment. Short, clear, grounded, and then you follow through. Third, limit your emotional labor. Notice when you automatically step into fixer mode, therapist mode, savior mode. Ask yourself, did they actually ask for help? Or did I jump in without being invited? Do I honestly have the energy for this? Or am I abandoning myself again? You are allowed to care without constantly carrying. Fourth, create intentional solitude. Set aside time where you are deliberately unavailable. No messages, no calls, no constant scrolling through other people's emotions and opinions. Just you, with yourself. This is not wasted time. This is where you rebuild your inner center. And now, something important happens as you practice silence. as you practice selective withdrawal, as you start saying no more honestly, something in you begins to shift. First, it may feel like loss. Loss of certain relationships, loss of certain patterns, loss of a familiar identity, as the always available one. But slowly, a new kind of strength appears. You stop reacting to everything. You stop explaining yourself to everyone. You stop overgiving to prove your worth. Your energy becomes more focused, more intentional, more powerful. People will feel that. Some will respect it. Some will resent it. But you will know deep down, I am no longer for sale to every emotional demand that appears at my door. This is the beginning of true individuation. In the sense of Carl Jung psychology, you become less of a reactor and more of a creator. You begin to live from the inside out instead of the outside in. You realize your silence is not emptiness. It is fertile ground. It is where you finally hear your own voice. After years of being drowned out by everyone else's, it is where your intuition gets clearer. Your boundaries get stronger. Your sense of self becomes solid. And from that place, you can choose who gets access to you and on what terms. So if you find yourself tired, drained, overavailable, and undervalued, this might be your invitation to step back, to become more silent, more selective, more protective of your energy, not because you don't care, but because you finally do. You care about your inner life. You care about your peace. You care about the person you're becoming. And that means not everyone will get the same access they once had. Some will call it distance. Some will call it coldness. Some will say you've changed. But you will know the truth. You didn't become less loving. You became less available. For your own self-abandonment, you chose sovereignty. You chose silence. You chose yourself.